Have you ever noticed people who seem to bend the atmosphere around them without uttering a sound? They don't shout. They don't plead. They simply pull back, and suddenly the whole room tilts, the mood shifts. People begin to wonder. They follow, they prod. Now picture yourself doing the same, pausing before answering, choosing quiet over the reflex, stepping back instead of erupting. What would change? That's the point. When you stop being instantly reachable, emotionally, physically, mentally, if the world around you falters, because many have learned to steer you by your reactions, by your predictable responses. The moment you remove yourself from that pattern, the script falls apart. Those who thought they knew you discover they actually knew very little. Carl Jung said that whatever irritates us in others can help us understand ourselves better. Think about that. When you become unreachable, who grows frantic, who gets annoyed, who tries to bait you into showing an emotion, that exposure tells you more about them than it does about you. And mostly it reveals how habitually you've allowed yourself to be used. You keep sacrificing your time and attention to keep the peace, to hold people close, to avoid losing them. People who, deep down, were never truly with you. With every forced yes, every instant reply, every heated reaction, you hand over a fragment of your energy. By nightfall, what remains is fatigue, irritation, and a hollow you can't quite name. I'll tell you why. You're too available to people who don't even deserve a minute of your calm. This isn't a call to abandon the world. It's an invitation to choose yourself. It's about what Jung termed individuation, the work of becoming whole, true, complete. That path begins when you grasp that silence can outweigh 1,000 arguments, and that withdrawal, when it comes from awareness rather than avoidance, is an expression of power. So look at yourself now and ask, how long will you let others' emotions puppeteer you? How long will you react the instant someone pokes at an old wound? Maybe it's time to cut those strings, to step back, to become an enigma. Because when you stop being perpetually available, everything shifts. You were taught to be present, to answer quickly, to consent even when you wanted to refuse. Since childhood, you were conditioned to measure your value by how available you are. Here's a truth many haven't said plainly. This compulsive availability is not nobility, it's captivity. As long as you think you must always be reachable, emotionally or otherwise, you'll be manipulated, depleted, and discarded the moment you're no longer useful. Why? Because being constantly available makes you predictable. And whatever is predictable becomes a tool. People start treating you like an emotional fire alarm. They press you for attention, relief, validation, then put you back where they found you. You don't notice because you're trapped in a myth that being present for everyone will ensure someone will be present for you. It doesn't work that way. Jung wrote about the persona, the mask we wear to be seen, liked, accepted. That persona is exactly what keeps you overextended. You say, "I'm fine," while you suffocate. You reply to messages immediately when you're exhausted. You explain, excuse, defend as if you owe the world justification. The paradox is cruel. The more you put yourself on display for others, the less of you remains. Constant availability is a stealthy form of self-betrayal, a disguised search for approval, an avoidance of rejection, an attempt to manage how others view you. But that control has a cost, your vitality. You distribute your life force as if it were infinite when in truth it is not. People who insist on being everywhere at once aren't truly seeking you. They're seeking what you give: validation, company, distraction, emotional labor. The day you change, when you set limits, when you decline to react, those same people bristle. They call you strange, accuse you of coldness, not because you've become someone else, but because you've stopped serving their needs. Here's the bitter truth. Abundance breeds disregard. What is always there becomes taken for granted. No one values what they do not have to work for. So pause and ask, who really merits your time, your attention, your presence? Who earns the right to your absence? But before you answer, understand this. Why do we react so reflexively? Why do we give ourselves away so readily? The answer lies in what Jung named psychic energy. And that's what we'll explore next. Because your energy is your most precious asset. And if you don't guard it, others will spend it for you. If this resonates, hit subscribe and support the channel. Thank you. Jung didn't see the human mind as a mechanical system that reflexively responds to every stimulus without consequence. To him, the mind is an energy economy. Every thought, feeling, and action draws down a portion of that resource. The real question is, are you directing where your energy flows? Or are you letting external demands spend it for you? Every impulsive reaction is a leak of psychic energy. When you defend yourself against petty criticism, when you retaliate to a taunt to prove a point, when you enter pointless fights, when you bend over backward to please those who don't value you, you squander your strength on things that give nothing back. Remember Jung's insight. What you resist persists. The more you struggle, the more entangled you become. People who live chronically drained are not weak. They are misallocated. What happens to someone who is perpetually exhausted? They become exposed, and vulnerability invites predators. Manipulative, opportunistic, emotionally needy people sense who lacks energy control. They notice when you react to everything, when you try to fix the world for everyone, and they exploit it. A healthy psyche knows how to conserve energy within its borders. That means saying no without guilt, holding silence without shame, observing before acting. True authority is not in reflex. It's in the choice of when and how to engage. That capacity arrives only when you know yourself well enough to recognize your impulses. How many nights have you lost sleep over an unresolved exchange? How many hours wasted replaying words you should have let go? Trying to decipher why someone acted poorly? That's energy drained with no return. You're keeping ghosts alive that should have been let go long ago. Feeding dynamics that only persist because you insist on participating. Psychic energy behaves like a shield. When it's well maintained, you arrive and create presence. You can command a room without uttering a syllable. Poorly managed, you become reactive, fragile, invisible, and the world shows no mercy to those who give themselves cheaply. So begin to notice your triggers. What drags you off center? Those are the spots where your energy escapes. And those are the places you must work on. Not to become cold or indifferent, but to become selective, sovereign. One of Jung's starkest truths: by conserving your energy, you disrupt the projections others have cast on you, and that will unsettle many. Because now we're stepping into uncomfortable terrain, the realm of quiet manipulation. In the next section, we'll unpack how opportunists siphon your energy and why your unavailability completely renders their schemes powerless. Get ready to face the gaze of those who have been quietly draining you for years without you ever noticing. You think you're steering your own choices. You assume your reactions are deliberate, but the hidden truth is, harsher most of your responses are automatic patterns, and those who understand this can pull your strings with ease. Manipulative personalities don't need to scream demand or force outcomes. They only need to touch the wounds you've left exposed, and instantly you fall into the same reactions. Carl Jung called this projection, a psychological mechanism where people unload onto others the parts of themselves they refuse to recognize. But here's the hidden angle most people ignore. While others project onto you, you unconsciously become the surface for those projections. And the more emotionally accessible you are, the easier it is for them to paint their image of you on that surface. You've seen it before: the friend who only shows up when drowning in problems, the partner who makes you the rescuer again and again, the person who flatters you only until you stop being useful to them. None of this is coincidence. They aren't relating to you, they're relating to the image of you, to the script you keep agreeing to perform. And why do you agree? Because you fear rejection, fear not being worthy, fear abandonment. The most subtle form of control is not loud, it's guilt. That internal whisper telling you that you must give support, must be available, must say yes even when it's eroding your spirit. And here lies the core truth. The manipulator doesn't need to command you. They just need you to keep repeating the same conditioned response. But the moment you interrupt the pattern, the structure collapses. When you choose silence instead of defending, when you leave instead of justifying, the false mask they forced onto you cracks. And this unsettles people deeply. Because suddenly they cannot define you anymore, and worse, now they must face themselves. And not everyone is ready for that. Your withdrawal threatens them, because it forces them to confront their own hollowness. The quiet you embody makes their inner chaos louder. That's when they attack, criticize, create drama. Not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer their convenient mirror. Jung once said we don't reach enlightenment by fantasizing about light, but by making the darkness conscious. When you step back, when you stop feeding their cycle, their shadow is exposed, and many cannot bear to see it. But the real question is this: are you prepared to handle being misread, rejected, even targeted just for guarding your boundaries? Are you willing to sit with the silence that follows after breaking the chain? Because within that silence lies a new kind of strength, and that is what we're exploring next. In the coming part, you'll see why silence is not weakness, but one of the most transformative weapons of the human mind, and how it completely shifts the balance between you and others. We live in an age drowning in noise. Everyone wants to talk, argue, prove themselves, win meaningless debates even if it robs them of inner peace. But there's a hidden force few ever harness, the strength of silence. Not silence born of fear or passivity, but deliberate, intentional, piercing silence. The kind that isn't emptiness but heightened presence. Jung saw silence not as escape, but as fertile ground for self-realization. When you no longer react immediately, you start to observe. And through observing, you begin to detect recurring patterns, manipulative tactics, repetitive cycles. Silence sharpens clarity. And clarity is dangerous to those who relied on keeping you blind. Ever notice how some people panic when you don't reply? When you don't explain, when you simply go quiet? It's not longing that disturbs them. It's that your silence strips them of their control over the story. As long as you answer, you're still trapped in their play. But silence rewrites the script, and that destabilizes anyone who thrives on your reactions. True silence is not the absence of sound. It is mastery over your own energy. It is refusing to be dragged into battles that drain you. It is choosing not to spend yourself on what does not serve you. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires such retreat because only in silence can you actually hear your own voice free from the crowd's demands. But don't be deceived, silence carries a cost. It will distance you from those who only valued the role you played. It will make you unintelligible to those who only related to their projection of you. It may even make you appear cold, arrogant, distant. But all of these are defenses from people who never sought your truth, only your function. And here lies the difficult lesson. The more you grow, the more careful you become with your words, because you see each sentence as an expenditure of energy, and not everyone merits that investment. Very often, silence is not escape, it is sovereignty, the unspoken language of those who no longer feel the need to prove themselves. Silence unsettles because it forces others to wrestle with their own thoughts, their inner dissonance, and that disturbance exposes far more than any explanation ever could. You don't need to justify why you're absent. Your absence already communicates everything, and those threatened by it reveal just how much they relied on your instability for their comfort. But the highest form of silence isn't the one that rattles others. It's the silence that rebuilds you. It's the quiet that reconnects you with something deeper than external validation. In this stillness, free from others' demand, you reclaim your life force. You return to your essence. And this brings us to what comes next. Because it's not enough to block the outer noise. You must learn to direct your energy with precision, to decide where it flows, where it stays, and most importantly, where it must never be wasted. It's time to master the art of choosing with your soul. If you're walking this path of reclaiming yourself, you'll find depth in my book, Beyond the Shadow, where I expand on Jung's most transformative ideas and offer practical tools to guard your energy, set firm boundaries, and rebuild your true center. Link is in the pinned comment. But here's the truth. Knowledge alone is useless if you keep doing the same. If you keep saying yes when your heart says no, if you keep replying to messages that drain you, engaging in hollow discussions, maintaining relationships that exist only out of habit, awareness without application is another trap of self-deception. Real transformation begins the day you decide to become selective. And that choice demands discipline. Intentional distance is not arrogance, cruelty, or indifference. It is refusing to be endlessly accessible. It is reclaiming your time, your peace, your essence. And it begins with small acts, waiting before reacting, not replying instantly, stepping away before chaos swallows you, shutting your phone without guilt, saying not today, saying I don't want to, saying I won't take part. And here's the key. You don't need to defend your absence. You don't need to explain your quiet. You owe only yourself, and this for many will be unacceptable. Because when you stop explaining, you strip away their ability to frame you as forever available, forever understanding, forever convenient. Jung understood that individuation always passes through solitude, but not despairing solitude, sacred solitude. A stage where you relearn how to listen to your own voice, free from the world's interference, where your identity is rebuilt not from others' gaze but from your own ground. And here's a useful measure for your growth. Watch who drifts away once you become reserved. Watch who provokes you when you stop reacting. Watch who accuses you of changing once you begin to guard yourself. These are not failures. They are proof you are finally breaking free. Stepping back feels heavy at first. You'll feel guilt, you'll fear being selfish, you'll be told you are harsh. But that discomfort is part of dismantling old conditioning. You've spent years putting yourself last. Of course, change shakes both you and those who thrived on your old self. Conscious distance is the foundation of true autonomy. Every time you say no to others, you're saying yes to yourself. When you walk away from toxic patterns, you declare that your inner calm is worth more than false companionship. And when you stop defending your decisions, you begin to be respected, even if only by a few. But not everyone can handle this presence, because your silence shines a light on their unhealed wounds. It reveals how much they relied on your emotional chaos to feel in control. And this is where the rupture happens. And with rupture comes pain, solitude, estrangement, the sensation of loss, when in reality you are only gaining freedom. But what happens after that? What grows from this silence? In the last part, we'll enter this theme. The rebirth that emerges once you choose to face being misunderstood. Once you choose solitude, once you choose to stand whole on your own. It's time to discover why the solitude of the strong is not weakness, but the path to authentic freedom. When you stop being endlessly available, a deep transformation begins. First, there is silence, a silence that feels unbearable at first. You question yourself, you wonder if you were too harsh, if you're losing people who truly cared. But slowly that silence changes. It purifies, it soothes, it heals. Then comes solitude, but not the solitude of emptiness. The solitude of wholeness, of full presence. The solitude of someone who refuses to abandon themselves for others' comfort. And within that space where confusion once lived, clarity enters. Where anxiety once ruled, calm arrives. Where dependency once lingered, strength is born, the strength of finding home within yourself. Jung affirmed that individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, requires leaving the collective behind. It demands setting down the masks. It asks you to walk alone for a while. And that is exactly what happens when you become deliberately unavailable. You're not running away from life. You're returning to your center. In this moment, you shift from being a reactor to being a creator. You no longer let circumstances mold you. You shape your world from the inside out. Those unsettled by your absence prove they never valued you. They valued the role you played. And now that role is gone, they have no use for you. And that realization is liberation. You will lose people, but you will find yourself. You will step away from places, but reconnect with your essence. You will be misinterpreted, but you will finally be respected. Because when you're no longer accessible to everything, you become rare, precious, unforgettable. And do not mistake this, it is a rebirth. A beginning of a life where you refuse scraps of affection. Refuse manipulative games, refuse voids disguised as love. From now on, you accept only what aligns with your peace, your truth, your sacredness. And if you are listening this far, it means a part of you is already prepared. Already knows that love without self-respect is empty. And that true love of self starts when you choose yourself, even if it means standing alone for a season. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to be misjudged, abandoned, or even disliked in exchange for your inner freedom? Are you ready to pay the price of being fully yourself? If this message reached you, if it resonates, declare in the comments, I choose my peace. Let's see how many of you are ready to walk this path. And don't forget, the next video matters more than you think. I'll see you there.